Hey everyone. Okay, so from the jump, the bulk of this episode was pretty much just the immediate aftermath of Kaido's defeat and everyone just recollecting themselves, but I think that is also what really does make this episode work in my opinion, as it's the moment where we can finally take that big long breath of relief and soak in that it's truly over. Kaido's defeated, Orochi's dead, Wano can finally celebrate the fact that it's free, and of course, we do still gotta talk about the ending where Momonosuke appears before the populace in his dragon form, with the Yakuza 9. And honestly, in any other situation, I would say this is crazy move, and that Momonosuke is causing an unneeded panic. But looking back on this moment, I do see it as kind of a necessary evil in order for Momonosuke to truly establish the return of the Kozuki to Wano, that the tyranny that the people have lived under is over, and that they can trust him to fight back against anything that threatens Wano in the future. Like, he needs to properly establish himself as a leader in the eyes of the people, and while definitely a little bombastic, there is a necessity behind it, seeing as how the last time I actually saw Momonosuke, he was still just a child, and to that, but even though it hasn't been revealed yet, obviously a lot of what does play into this again is kind of what Momonosuke tells, like what Momonosuke tells is what basically says that Zunisha that he's not ready to open the borders, and so it puts that in the perspective of, oh, like, yeah, there is a very real reason why he's doing all this, and by extension of all that though, I do think it is a very ballsy narrative move that the episode, and by extension the manga, took this approach, which is to say, when you look at this whole episode, they left Luffy completely to the sidelines. Like, Luffy barely had a part to play in this episode, like, which allows it to feel much more like Wano's victory, I think, which is an important move, honestly. Also, on that note, one thing I weirdly like about the beginning of this episode is how, I think through like the first 4 minutes or something, there was no music, or if there was, they kept the volume very low and just let the moment breathe in silence, with Yamato and Momonosuke and Luffy and all that, and but before obviously ramping it back up when everyone started celebrating. Again, it's a small touch, but one I honestly wish Toei would do more of, which is, if you don't need music for every scene or moment, there is something to be said about silence being golden, and I did like in the first couple of minutes of the episode because of that it just let the moment breathe in silence, that they could all just take a breath without anything like interfering with that. With that said, this is one of those episodes where I also really did like seeing all the various character reactions to the battle being over. Like, I normally, when it comes to seeing all the characters react to like the aftermath or just the battle being over, I normally kind of just write moments like these off, because it's something we have seen 1,000 times at this point. But going along with that feeling of being able to breathe a sigh of relief at the battle being over, I like how all the characters have their own like different reaction to it being over. Like how we see Kid lamenting how there's very little to actually celebrate to him, Law keeping his thoughts silent until his crew kind of comes in to kind of like smother him. And then you obviously see the Straw Hats celebrating alongside most everyone else, and then you got Denjiro and Hiyori just kind of keeping their peace, probably thinking a whole lot of different things, and just in general feeling a whole lot of emotions. And then I love how, and then of course to cap it off, then you got Chopper, who's stressing the fuck out of the fact that he's overworked, only to feel even more so by Frank and Usopp bringing him Zoro, Kinemon, and Kiku for treatment. Like, it's that was a nice bit of comedy, honestly, and in what's rather very calm and like, I'm not gonna say stressful, but definitely very like very intense episode in some ways. With that said, I also really like the moment when we get with Toko in this episode, where it's revealed, yeah, she knew Yasui got caught on purpose, and that she even knew she probably knew inherently he was going to die, but she still couldn't understand why he had done all that, which is when Hitetsu revealed that it's only because of his sacrifice that Wano was given the fighting chance it needed. So it's one of those things where I think she knew inherently what her father was doing, and that he died a hero, which is, but at the same time, but it's a nice bit of like closure to help wrap up Yasumi and Toko's story in this arc, and really just acknowledge that that Yasumi kind of was the unsung hero of the story, the one who may not be acknowledged for what he had done except by a select few, which is honestly just the perfect way to describe Yasumi in general. He never wanted to be in the spotlight or be acknowledged as someone important. He only ever did anything if it helped to make Wano the place that he wanted to be, a place where peaceful days could be had by all, even, again, if it meant he couldn't be a part of it. And yeah, getting the reveal he willingly ate the defective smile fruit just so Toko wouldn't have to suffer alone, like, that got me, I'm not gonna lie. And that led, like, it's one of those moments that's like, that right there is a true father, one who's willing to do anything for his child. And kind of spoiler, I guess, but even though the arc does kind of end up, even though this arc is going to end off in a rather annoying way by leaving the whole smile fruit thread hanging and not being addressed, at least not yet, I still have a feeling he might address it just in a different way. It would be interesting to see that if this story ever does kind of come back around to Wano, and that they eventually do like cure all the people of the smile fruits, it would be kind of interesting if Toko doesn't decide to be cured and like chooses to remain that way as her weird way of honoring her father Yasui. Like, again, I don't know if it will go that direction, but it would kind of be interesting. Also, I'm not gonna lie, it might just be hindsight from having read the manga, but this back half is really laying on thick in terms of Hitetsu's true identity. Not gonna say who, but just saying it really is laying it on thick here. But yeah, guys, that's from Show God for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll, push the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just live around, guys. Dark Knight Vernay signing off. Later, everyone.